First Contact's fatal mistake. The Valaxian Empire had ruled the Andromeda Spiral for 10,000 years, their crystalline ships a testament to technological supremacy that none dared challenge. When their long-range scouts discovered Earth, they dismissed it as just another primitive world to add to their collection. Their preliminary scans showed a species still burning fossil fuels, fighting among themselves, and barely reaching their own moon. Supreme Commander Zextal hadn't even bothered to attend the initial briefing. That would prove to be the first of many fatal mistakes. The Valaxians' initial attack came without warning or declaration. Their crystalline ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapon systems targeting Earth's major military installations. They expected the humans to surrender immediately upon witnessing their overwhelming technological superiority. Instead, they watched in confusion as their energy weapons encountered unexpectedly sophisticated electromagnetic countermeasures, defensive systems that, according to their intelligence, shouldn't have existed. Impossible. First Strategist Venra muttered, her iridescent scales shifting to a troubled violet as she studied the tactical displays. Their technological level indicates they shouldn't have ENC capabilities for at least another century. The humans had noticed the Valaxian scout ships months ago. While the aliens thought they were being stealthy, Earth's various space agencies had detected minute gravitational anomalies. Instead of announcing this discovery to the world, a secret coalition of scientists and military experts had begun preparing. When the Valaxians launched their second wave of attacks, targeting civilian populations to force a surrender, they encountered something else they hadn't expected. Rage. Pure, focused, terrifying human rage. The emergency broadcast system across Earth crackled to life. Instead of panic or pleas for mercy, a single message repeated in every language. They want to see what humans are capable of. Let's show them. Within hours, humanity demonstrated exactly why they had survived multiple extinction-level events on their hostile world. Military installations that appeared destroyed revealed themselves to be elaborate decoys. Civilian populations evacuated through underground networks that had been quietly expanded over months. And most surprisingly to the Valaxians, humans began using their own weapons against them. They've already reverse-engineered the propulsion system from our downed scout ship, reported Science Officer Kirax, his scales now a pale yellow of fear. They're adapting our technology and improving it in ways we never considered. The humans' approach to warfare shocked the Valaxians to their core. Where the Empire relied on precise, calculated strikes following millennia of established military doctrine, humans fought with desperate creativity. They converted civilian infrastructure into military assets with frightening speed. Mining machines became terrain-chewing war platforms. Commercial satellites transformed into weapon guidance systems. Even the planet's entertainment networks were repurposed into a revolutionary battlefield communication system. But what truly terrified the Valaxians was humanity's ability to innovate under pressure. Within weeks, human scientists had not only understood Valaxian shield technology, but had found ways to bypass it using principles the Empire had never considered. They discovered that the crystalline ships, while nearly impervious to energy weapons, were surprisingly vulnerable to specific sound frequencies, a weakness the Valaxians had never defended against because no species had ever thought to use sound as a weapon in space. Supreme Commander Zextal finally called an emergency session of the Imperial War Council. The holographic projection showed Earth's defensive systems growing more sophisticated by the day. How? He demanded. How is this Level 2 civilization not only resisting, but actively pushing back our forces? A human transmission intercepted weeks earlier played in the background. You came to our home, threatened our children. Did you really think we wouldn't throw everything we have at you? That we wouldn't sacrifice everything to protect our world? You should have studied our history better. Humans don't surrender. We adapt. We overcome. And when someone threatens our existence, we don't stop until we've eliminated that threat completely. The Valaxians had assumed that humanity's divided nature, their constant internal conflicts, would make them easy to conquer. Instead, they watched in horror as these divisions evaporated in the face of an external threat. Nations that had been enemies for centuries now shared technology and resources freely. Scientific competitors openly published their findings. Every human on Earth seemed to be working toward a single goal: survival. As the first month of the invasion came to a close, the Valaxians had lost a third of their invasion fleet, not to sophisticated weapons or superior technology, but to human ingenuity, to weapons cobbled together from civilian technology, to strategies that defied conventional military logic, to an entire species that simply refused to accept defeat. First strategist Vendra's scales had settled into a permanent shade of worried gray. We didn't just underestimate their technological capabilities, she realized, watching another crystalline ship succumb to a makeshift human weapon. We underestimated their will to survive, their creativity, their ability to unite against a common enemy. And most importantly, she paused, mandibles clicking nervously, we underestimated just how dangerous humans become when they're angry. The invasion force that was supposed to subjugate Earth in days found itself in an increasingly desperate position. Each attempt to adjust their tactics was met with new human countermeasures. Every victory they achieved seemed to only fuel humanity's determination, and with each passing day, more of their advanced technology fell into human hands, where it was rapidly dissected, understood, and improved upon. Supreme Commander Zextal received the latest casualty reports with growing dread. The Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, but none had ever fought back like this. None had ever turned the Empire's own technology against them so effectively. And none had ever demonstrated such terrifying potential for rapid advancement under pressure. As he watched another ship fall to human ingenuity, Zextal realized that the Empire hadn't just failed to conquer Earth. They had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever, humanity's full potential. And as reports came in of humans beginning to push beyond their solar system, using modified Valaxian technology, he understood that the Empire's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's current capabilities. It was failing to realize what humanity would become once they were forced to show their true potential. The science of vengeance. Dr. Elena Martinez hadn't slept in 3 days, but she couldn't stop now. Not when she was so close to understanding the principles behind the Valaxian quantum communication system. Her lab in the underground facility beneath the ruins of MIT buzzed with activity as scientists from around the world worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of alien technology. The crystalline structure isn't just for aesthetics, she muttered, examining the captured communications array through an electron microscope. They're using quantum entanglement on a molecular level. The entire ship is one massive quantum computer. The revelation spread quickly through the scientific community. Within hours, research teams worldwide began examining their own captured Valaxian technology through this new lens. What they found changed everything they thought they knew about physics. In the depths of CERN's particle accelerator complex, now converted into humanity's primary weapons research facility, Dr. James Chen watched in amazement as his team successfully replicated the quantum crystalline growth process. They're not building these ships, he realized. They're growing them. The Valaxians had expected humanity to take decades to understand their technology. Instead, human scientists were making breakthroughs daily. Their desperate need to survive, combined with their unique ability to think outside established scientific paradigms, led to innovations that the Valaxians had never conceived. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Sarah Harrison watched the first human-made quantum crystal take shape. Unlike the elegant, symmetrical designs of Valaxian ships, this crystal grew in jagged, asymmetrical patterns. "It's not pretty," she commented to her chief engineer, "but it's twice as strong as theirs." The Valaxians had made another crucial mistake in their assessment of human scientific capability. They had assumed that humanity's fragmented scientific community, with its competing theories and endless debates, was a sign of primitive understanding. They didn't realize that this very diversity of thought would become humanity's greatest advantage. They'd been using the same technology for thousands of years, Dr. Martinez explained to the Global Defense Council. They stopped innovating because they thought they'd reached the peak of scientific understanding. But we're finding new applications, new possibilities they never imagined. The breakthrough that truly terrified the Valaxians came 3 months into the war. Human scientists discovered that the quantum crystalline structure of Valaxian ships could be disrupted by carefully calibrated gravitational waves. It was a weakness the Valaxians had never defended against because their rigid, traditional approach to physics had never considered gravity as a weapon. In the Valaxian command ship, first scientist Keldar watched in horror as human vessels began employing gravitational weapons. "This is impossible," he insisted, his scales shifting to a sickly green. Their understanding of gravitational manipulation was practically non-existent when we arrived. But humanity wasn't just learning. They were reimagining everything they thought they knew about science. The pressure of survival had unleashed human creativity in unprecedented ways. Scientists who had once competed for grants and recognition now worked together seamlessly, sharing discoveries and building upon each other's innovations. The Lunar Defense Base, constructed in mere weeks using modified Valaxian technology, became humanity's primary research center for weapons development. Here, scientists from every field imaginable collaborated on projects that would have seemed like science fiction months earlier. "We're not just copying their technology," Dr. Chen explained as he led a tour for military officials. "We're improving it. Their quantum crystals are perfect, symmetrical. Ours are adaptive, evolving. They can repair themselves, learn from damage, grow stronger." The Valaxians watched in growing panic as human weapons became increasingly sophisticated. Humanity's understanding of quantum mechanics, gravitational manipulation, and energy systems evolved more in 3 months than it had in the previous century. But perhaps most disturbing to the Valaxians was humanity's approach to research and development. Where Valaxian scientists followed strict protocols and established theories, humans seemed to throw conventional wisdom out the window. They combined technologies in ways that should have been impossible, created hybrid systems that defied traditional physics, and developed weapons that exploited weaknesses the Valaxians had never even considered. "They're not just using our technology," Keldar reported to the Imperial Science Council. "They're transforming it. Every weapon we deploy, every defense we create, they study it, understand it, and find ways to make it better. Or worse, they find ways to turn it against us." In the skies above Earth, the results of this scientific revolution became increasingly apparent. Human ships, while cruder in appearance than their Valaxian counterparts, demonstrated capabilities that shocked the Empire. They could phase through Valaxian shields by matching quantum frequencies. They could generate gravitational fields that tore enemy ships apart at the molecular level. And most impressively, they could adapt and repair themselves in real time, learning from each engagement. The Global Defense Council's headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains became a testament to humanity's scientific advancement. Holographic displays showed the constant evolution of human technology, each day bringing new innovations and capabilities. The quantum crystal gardens, where humanity grew its own ships, pulsed with an eerie light as they produced vessels that were becoming more sophisticated with each iteration. Dr. Martinez stood before the council, presenting her latest findings. "The Valaxians thought they knew everything worth knowing about quantum physics," she explained. "That certainty became their weakness. We're finding new applications, new principles they never explored, because they stopped asking, 'What if?'" The implications extended far beyond military applications. Human understanding of medicine, energy production, and computing underwent revolutionary changes. The threat of extinction had forced humanity to evolve, to think beyond conventional limitations, to imagine possibilities that had never been considered before. As the war entered its 4th month, the Valaxian Empire faced a terrifying reality. They had given humanity access to advanced technology, but instead of simply copying it, humans were reinventing it. Each engagement provided humans with more data, more technology to study, more opportunities to innovate. In his private chambers, Supreme Commander Zextal reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing dread. The humans weren't just learning to use Valaxian technology. They were surpassing it. Their ships were becoming more powerful, their weapons more sophisticated, their understanding of the universe deeper than any species the Empire had encountered. The Empire that had prided itself on its scientific superiority for 10,000 years was being outpaced by a species that had barely reached its own moon when the war began. And as reports came in of new human innovations, of weapons and defenses that defied Valaxian understanding, Zextal realized that the Empire had unleashed something unprecedented in galactic history: humanity's full scientific potential. Unconventional warfare. First strategist Venra couldn't understand why her fleet was losing to a group of cargo ships. The human vessels were crude conversions of their planetary trading fleet, vastly inferior to Valaxian warships in every measurable way. Yet somehow, they had just destroyed 3 of her most advanced crystalline cruisers. "They're using their ships wrong," she muttered, scales shifting through shades of confusion. The humans ignored conventional space combat doctrine. Instead of maintaining proper battle formations, their ships moved in seemingly chaotic patterns. They deliberately flew into asteroid fields, used their own disabled vessels as traps, and employed tactics that no sane military commander would consider. Colonel Sarah Chen, commanding the converted cargo fleet from her flagship Trickster, smiled as another Valaxian cruiser fell for their trap. "They still don't get it," she commented to her crew. "They keep expecting us to fight by their rules." The human approach to space warfare horrified the Valaxians, where the Empire relied on precise formations and calculated maneuvers refined over millennia. Humans fought like cornered animals, unpredictable, aggressive, and willing to take risks that seemed suicidal. But it wasn't just their tactical approaches that disturbed the Valaxians. Humans had turned psychological warfare into an art form. They broadcast on Valaxian frequencies, not with threats or demands, but with laughter. The sound of human laughter, the Valaxians discovered, was profoundly unsettling to their species. "They're playing music now," reported Communications Officer Kirax, his scales paling to a sickly yellow. Through the command ship speakers came the thunderous beats of human war songs, carefully chosen to resonate with the crystalline structure of Valaxian vessels. The humans had discovered that certain frequencies could create subtle vibrations in the quantum crystal matrix, slowly weakening their ship's integrity. The psychological impact was devastating. Valaxian crews began to dread the sound of human broadcasts. Some reported hearing phantom music even when communications were silent. The Empire's soldiers, trained to face enemies that followed logical combat protocols, found themselves jumping at shadows. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, humanity had transformed mining operations into military assets. Automated mining drones were reprogrammed into swarm weapons. Mineral processing stations became ammunition factories. The entire belt was transformed into what humans called a cosmic Vietnam, a maze of guerrilla warfare installations that bled the Valaxian fleet dry. "They're learning from every encounter," First Strategist Venra reported to the War Council. "Not just adapting their technology, but their tactics. Each defeat makes them more dangerous, not less." The humans had studied Earth's military history and applied those lessons to space warfare. They used strategies from every conflict, every culture, every era of their violent past. Valaxian commanders found themselves facing tactics inspired by everything from ancient Chinese warfare to modern guerrilla operations. In the Kuiper Belt, human ships played a deadly game of hide-and-seek with Valaxian patrols. They powered down their systems and drifted with the ice debris, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Empire's commanders couldn't understand why any species would willingly shut down their life support systems just to gain a tactical advantage. "Because we're crazy," was the response they received when they finally captured a human captain and demanded answers. "You think we're following some grand strategy? We're making this up as we go along. And that's why you can't beat us. You can't predict what we'll do next because even we don't know. The human tendency to improvise extended to their use of technology. They wielded Valaxian weapons in ways their creators had never intended. Defensive shields were overloaded and used as weapons. Communication arrays were modified to broadcast disruptive frequencies. Even waste disposal systems were weaponized in ways that the Empire's engineers found disturbingly creative. Commander Jessica Martinez, leading Earth's defensive fleet, introduced what she called chaos theory warfare. Her ships would appear to break formation, simulating battle damage or system failures, only to execute precisely coordinated attacks when Valaxian vessels moved to exploit the apparent weakness. They're using their inferior technology as an advantage, Venra realized with growing horror. We expect them to be limited by their capabilities, so they use our expectations against us. The humans had also mastered the art of misinformation. They leaked false intelligence, created phantom fleets using modified sensor signatures, and even managed to hack Valaxian communication systems to spread confusion among enemy forces. Let me explain something about humans, a captured Earth diplomat told his Valaxian interrogators. We spent millennia fighting each other. We've had to get creative, to think outside the box, because we were always fighting enemies who knew all our standard tactics. Now we're applying everything we learned from fighting ourselves to fighting you. And unlike you, we never stopped innovating. The Empire's military doctrine, unchanged for thousands of years, proved increasingly ineffective against human unpredictability. Standard Valaxian responses to specific tactics became liabilities as humans deliberately triggered these responses, then exploited them. In Earth's orbit, a group of college students turned hackers managed to infiltrate Valaxian battlefield control systems. They didn't try to shut them down. Instead, they introduced subtle errors. Distance calculations would be off by tiny margins. Target tracking would lag by milliseconds. Small changes that added up to disaster in the precise world of space combat. The psychological impact on Valaxian forces was profound. Troops trained to follow strict protocols found themselves hesitating, second-guessing standard procedures. The Empire's legendary military discipline began to crack under the strain of facing an enemy that refused to behave predictably. They're not just defeating us, Venra concluded in her report to Supreme Commander Zextal. They're changing the very nature of warfare. Every tactic we've refined over millennia, every strategy we've perfected, they render them obsolete not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer unpredictability. As the war entered its 5th month, the Valaxian Empire faced an uncomfortable truth. They had spent 10,000 years perfecting a form of warfare that humans had rendered obsolete in weeks. Their enemy's greatest weapon wasn't their advancing technology or growing fleet strength. It was their ability to think in ways that defied conventional military logic. In his command center, Supreme Commander Zextal watched recordings of recent battles, trying to discern patterns in human tactics. But there were no patterns to find. Each engagement was different. Each human commander brought their own unpredictable style to the battlefield. The empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds through precise, calculated warfare found itself helpless against an enemy that turned chaos itself into a weapon. Unity in defiance. The Valaxian Cultural Analysis Division had spent centuries studying conquered species. They prided themselves on their ability to understand and exploit societal divisions. But as Chief Analyst Rixtel stared at the latest reports from Earth, she realized they had fundamentally misunderstood how human diversity worked. We thought their differences would weaken them, she explained to the Imperial Council, her scales shifting to a troubled blue. Their various cultures, languages, religions, and ideologies. We expected these divisions to fracture under pressure. Instead, they're drawing strength from their diversity. The evidence was undeniable. Each human culture brought unique perspectives to the war effort, creating solutions that would have been impossible from a single viewpoint. Indian engineers combined ancient architectural principles with captured Valaxian technology to create gravity manipulation systems more efficient than anything the Empire had developed. African military strategists applied tribal warfare techniques to space combat, creating formations that seemed chaotic but proved devastatingly effective. In a hidden facility beneath the Amazon rainforest, indigenous shamans worked alongside quantum physicists, their understanding of natural systems providing insights into Valaxian crystal technology that Western scientists had overlooked. The crystals are alive, a Yanomami elder explained to skeptical researchers. They respond to intention, to harmony. You cannot force them. You must work with them. The results shocked the Valaxian scientists. Human-grown quantum crystals began exhibiting properties that their own never had, responding to emotional resonance in ways their rigid scientific approach had never considered possible. Japanese manufacturers revolutionized the production of hybrid human Valaxian technology by applying principles of Zen philosophy to quantum engineering. Their factories produced weapons and defensive systems that were not just technically superior, but aesthetically harmonious in ways that seemed to enhance their performance. Each human culture sees the universe differently. Rixtel noted in her report, "Where we seek uniformity, they embrace diversity. Where we see contradiction, they see complementary truths. This makes them impossibly difficult to predict or counter." The Global Defense Council itself reflected this strength and diversity. Representatives from every nation brought their unique perspectives to military planning. Chinese strategic thinking, emphasizing patience and indirect action, combined with Russian tactical aggression. American technological innovation merged with European diplomatic insight. Middle Eastern desert warfare tactics were adapted for asteroid belt combat. Dr. Amara Okafor, leading the African Union's research division, made a breakthrough in shield technology by studying the overlapping patterns of tribal shields. Our ancestors understood that layers of different materials, each with its own properties, create stronger protection than a single solid defense, she explained. The resulting multilayer quantum shields proved far more resilient than traditional Valaxian designs. In orbit around Mars, Colonel Wei Chen commanded a fleet that combined Chinese fleet formations with Native American hunting strategies. "We move like a wolf pack," he explained to his multinational crew. Each ship independent but part of a greater whole. The Valaxians, used to rigid military hierarchies, couldn't adapt to fighting an enemy that operated like a coordinated ecosystem rather than a mechanical unit. The Empire's attempts to exploit human religious differences backfired spectacularly. Instead of causing division, the threat of extinction led Earth's religious leaders to find common ground. Mosques, churches, temples, and synagogues became centers of resistance and innovation. Prayer meetings turned into strategy sessions. Religious texts were studied alongside technical manuals, yielding unexpected insights. "They're not just cooperating," Rixtel observed with growing concern. "They're synthesizing, taking ideas from every culture and creating something entirely new. Each defeat teaches them, each victory inspires them, and their combined knowledge grows exponentially." In Indonesia, Islamic scholars worked with Buddhist monks to develop meditation techniques that helped pilots maintain focus during quantum space jumps. Hindu concepts of interconnectedness led to breakthroughs in understanding quantum entanglement. Jewish mystical traditions provided frameworks for comprehending higher dimensional physics. The Valaxian Empire, which had spent millennia imposing uniformity across the galaxy, couldn't comprehend a civilization that grew stronger through diversity. Their attempts to divide and conquer human society only served to highlight their own rigid thinking. "Look at their ships," a Valaxian engineer reported with bewilderment. "No two are exactly alike. Each reflects the culture of its builders while incorporating elements from others. They're not just allowing differences, they're celebrating them." The human fleet became a testament to this unity and diversity. Ships bore names from every culture's mythology, their designs incorporating artistic elements from around the world. Combat tactics drew from every military tradition humanity had ever developed, creating hybrid strategies that proved impossible to counter effectively. Even human leadership defied Valaxian understanding. Instead of a rigid chain of command, Earth's military structure had become organic and adaptive. Leaders emerged based on their abilities rather than rank, and command decisions incorporated input from all levels. They argue constantly, noted a Valaxian observer. They debate every decision, challenge every assumption. But instead of weakening them, this makes their final choices stronger. They consider perspectives we would never think to include. As the war progressed, humanity's greatest weakness, their divisions and differences, had become their greatest strength. Each culture contributed its unique wisdom. Each tradition offered new insights, and their combined creativity proved more powerful than any single approach could have been. In the depths of the Himalayas, where Buddhist monasteries had been converted into strategic planning centers, a lama explained it to a group of visiting military leaders. The Valaxians seek perfection through uniformity. We understand that true perfection lies in harmony between differences. Like a great orchestra, each instrument plays its own part, creating something greater than any could achieve alone. As Supreme Commander Zextal reviewed the latest reports, he finally understood the Empire's fundamental error. They had spent millennia eliminating diversity, seeing it as a source of weakness and instability. But in doing so, they had lost the very thing that made humanity so formidable: the ability to see the same problem from countless different angles, to find solutions that could only emerge from the intersection of diverse perspectives. We wanted to divide them, Rixtel concluded in her final report. Instead, we gave them a reason to unite, not by becoming the same, but by bringing their differences together in common cause. And in doing so, we may have created something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization that grows stronger through diversity rather than uniformity. The tables turn. The Great Hall of Harmony on the Valaxian homeworld had never been so silent. Supreme Commander Zextal stood before the Imperial Council, his scales a muted gray of defeat as he delivered the news no one had ever expected to hear. "We must sue for peace," he announced, his voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. "The humans have pushed our forces back to the mid-rim sectors. They're not just defending their world anymore. They're liberating every planet we've conquered along the way." The council erupted in protest, but fell silent as holographic displays activated, showing the current state of the war. Human ships, now almost organic in appearance with their adaptive quantum crystals, were systematically dismantling the Empire's defenses. More disturbing were the images from liberated worlds, where former subject species were rising up against Valaxian rule, inspired by humanity's example. "The humans aren't just defeating us militarily," First Diplomat Yexna observed, her scales shifting through shades of worry. "They're changing the very structure of galactic society. Every species they free joins their alliance, not as subjects, but as equals. They're building something we never imagined possible." The human approach to galactic politics bewildered the Valaxians. Where the Empire had imposed uniformity and hierarchy, humanity offered diversity and partnership. They shared their technological innovations freely with allied species, encouraging each civilization to adapt and improve upon them in their own unique ways. On the former Valaxian colony world of Nexus Prime, the insectoid Kithtal species had already begun incorporating human-inspired innovations into their hive cities. Their organic technology, combined with human quantum engineering, produced architectural wonders that defied conventional physics. "They're not just giving us technology," a Kithtal queen explained to her people. "They're showing us how to think differently, how to question assumptions we've held for millennia. They call it thinking outside the box, though they had to explain to us what a box was." The Aquarian dolphin-like species, long used as living navigation computers by the Empire, found particular resonance with human concepts of freedom and individual expression. Their songs, combined with human music, created new forms of communication that could traverse quantum space instantly. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology or tactics, reported Intelligence Director Mexler, reviewing data from dozens of former colony worlds. It was their ability to inspire others to imagine different possibilities. Every species they encounter comes away changed, awakened to their own potential. The impact on galactic civilization was profound. Species that had been carefully categorized and controlled by the Empire for thousands of years began to break free of their assigned roles. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained imperial power was crumbling in the face of a new model of interstellar cooperation. In orbit around a former Valaxian fortress world, Admiral Sarah Chen met with representatives from 20 different species. The conference room aboard her flagship reflected humanity's new approach to space travel. Organic curves merged with crystalline structures. Art from a dozen worlds decorated the walls, and the very air hummed with harmonies created by Aquarian song tech. "We're not here to replace one empire with another," she explained to the gathered delegates. "Earth nearly fell because we were divided. We learned the hard way that true strength comes from unity that celebrates diversity, not uniformity that suppresses it." The human concept of cultural exchange revolutionized interstellar relations. Species that had been isolated from each other under imperial rule began sharing ideas, technologies, and perspectives. The resulting explosion of innovation surpassed anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. On Earth, the Global Defense Council had evolved into the Interstellar Cooperation Initiative. Its headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains now hosted representatives from hundreds of species, each contributing their unique insights to solving shared challenges. The Valaxian Empire's attempt to understand these changes only highlighted how fundamentally their perspective had been altered. Their reports struggled to categorize a system that actively resisted categorization, to quantify improvements that emerged from seemingly chaotic interaction. "They've turned the galaxy into a reflection of their own society," Rixtel observed in her final analysis. "Countless different approaches and perspectives, all working together, all learning from each other. It's beautiful in its complexity, and terrifying in its implications for any system built on control and uniformity." The humans' technological advancement continued to accelerate, but now it was enriched by input from dozens of species. Their quantum crystal ships evolved into living vessels that merge organic and crystalline technology. Their weapons became more focused on defense and deterrence than destruction. Their cities in space reflected the combined architectural wisdom of 100 worlds. But perhaps most significantly, humanity's rise had introduced something new to galactic civilization: hope. Species that had accepted their place in the imperial hierarchy for thousands of years began to imagine different possibilities. Worlds that had been stripped of their cultural identity under imperial rule began to rediscover and reinvent their heritage. "We thought we were bringing order to chaos," Supreme Commander Zextal reflected, watching another sector of space declare independence from the Empire. "Instead, we were imposing stagnation on evolution. The humans didn't just defeat us, they showed us how wrong we've been for 10,000 years." The peace conference, when it finally came, was held on neutral ground. A space station constructed through the combined efforts of 12 different species, its very architecture a testament to the new galactic order. The Valaxian delegation, expecting to negotiate terms of surrender, found themselves instead invited to join a new kind of interstellar community. "Your empire is ended," Dr. Elena Martinez, now Earth's chief diplomat, told them. "But your civilization doesn't have to end with it. Join us. Learn with us. Add your voice to the greatest experiment in galactic history: genuine cooperation between genuinely different peoples." As the former Supreme Commander signed the treaty that would transform the Empire into a member of the new Galactic Cooperative, he finally understood the full magnitude of their initial mistake. They hadn't just underestimated humanity's current capabilities or their potential for advancement. They had underestimated their capacity to imagine a completely different way of existing in the universe. And in doing so, they had inadvertently helped create exactly what the galaxy needed: a civilization that drew strength from diversity, wisdom from difference, and hope from the endless possibilities that emerge when different perspectives come together in common cause. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And humanity, the species that had barely reached its own moon when the war started, now found itself leading the galaxy into an unprecedented era of innovation, exploration, and genuine unity in diversity.